that went out with you, and I know they really enjoyed their time out there. So you transitioned from the pipeline dogs. You're still with K2 at this point.
Yeah, and I came back, and I ended up taking over the NFL services contract, which was moving people around every game to train to, and I realized this isn't me. I'm sat in an office, just spent 4 months in the wild, doing what I do with dogs, loving my job.
Being
and
outside.
Yeah.
And a year prior to the Legends-Trailblazers. So,
yeah.
Let's not get back in the office.
No, so within a month I resigned and started Chiron Canine.
What does that name mean?
So Chiron was a centaur. He was half human, half animal. His mum was human. And typical centaurs, Greek mythology, typical centaurs are partiers, drinkers, fighters, wild animals. Chiron, because the half human, was actually a philosopher. He taught medicine and mentored people. Some of the other Greek gods, he mentored them and taught them. So the Royal Army Veterinary Corps, our cat badge was a Chiron, or the Chiron. So when I started my own company, I went back under that cat badge, if you like. I went back under Chiron. And this actual logo is made from a photograph of a bronze statue they presented me when I retired. I took the photograph, made it into the logo, and decided, Chiron's there to educate and mentor and help, and it fitted exactly what I wanted to do. So,
and that's pretty much what you've been doing.
Yeah.
So, let's talk about your book. Tell us, what's the name of it?
Imprint Your Detection Dogs in 15 Days, a step-by-step workbook. Yeah.
And I have it. Thank you very much. I have a signed copy. As I traveled a lot over my career, I was just retired September 30th. I run into people all the time, and we talk about imprinting. And more than more people have your book or read your book or follow your methods. Matter of fact, a guy in New Orleans is beating me down, trying to get me to run through the book with him and run it down through it. And I will. So what was the motivation to put that book out?
So I'd always wanted to write a book, and I'd made little attempts in the past, and it was just too big a challenge. And then COVID actually started, and at the time, everything shut down. So I was doing no dog training, and I was doing mentoring online for a canine academy based out of the UK. A friend of mine started a business where she was running canine behavior and training different things, and I would actually mentor through people taking exams and give reviews of their work, etc. And as part of that, and she's wrote a lot of books about dog training, she held a 30-day write your own dog training book in 30 days. And I said to her, do you think I could do this? And she actually said, yeah, I'll let you do it for free because you're one of my tutors. So literally, day one, they took you through this process of how to write a book, predominantly on dog training. And at the end of the 30 days, I had a manuscript for the workbook. Initially, it was going to be how to train a detection dog, so the full spectrum. But then I realized that's too big. And, like I said earlier, there's too many variables in the way you do things. So I decided to concentrate on just the imprint phase, make it nice and simple, a step-by-step process that people could follow. At that time, the idea was there's all these people stuck at home with their dogs. There was a sudden surge in people getting dogs into their homes, and the dogs are doing nothing, and I thought, what if we gave them a tool that they could actually train the dogs to find their keys or the remote control? It was something to give people something to do with all these dogs that were sat at home all day and would be of interest. But as it got released and as it got evolved, more and more professional type work, conservation work, I know it's used in a couple of universities as one of their textbooks, and it started to evolve into other areas of detection dog training on a more professional level as well. And it's not the only way to train dogs. Obviously, it's not the only way I use to train dogs, but the idea of it was a step-by-step process that people just pick up, follow. The QR codes are there to look at little video demonstrations of what we're talking about. And at the end of 15 days, thereabouts, they'd have a dog which would search for something and give a response. And initially I said I would be pleased if maybe I sold 1,000 copies. I think right now it's at 3,000, and the feedback has been really good. That people can pick it up and just work through it. I get people, contact me and say, hey, I'm stuck here, and it's little things, just need a little adjustment. But overall, it's done really well. And I think I want to stress that, it's not the only way. It's a way, but it's a nice, simple, step-by-step way that produces the goods. And it produces a dog that potentially could move into the field, which you see a lot of social media posts with these beautiful mechanical indoor-based dogs. But if you put them into the field, they would struggle. And we talk about the duration and the intensity and everything else that goes on with training. With this, it's a very baseline level that you could take that dog then and take it through the next steps to actually get it into the field, and actually work the dog. So yeah, the motivation was out of COVID, all these dogs sit at home doing nothing, and it kind of escalated from there.
Yeah, and that's kind of the feedback I got on it too. That it's simple enough I can understand it, but it sets me up to progress my dog to another level past that. And I think it was much needed, man. It was much needed because, again, you've been either out of federal service or out of contracting work for a while with other companies you're doing on your own. And I talk about this a lot, and I think we got to be careful of snake oil, right? Of somebody selling a new imprint method to someone, and it's not necessarily a good thing. I see people change their method with the same dog. They want to change it halfway through or change it to another way, and I think that is a really bad idea. I think it causes confusion with the dog. It frustrates the dog. I think if you find your method, like you said, it's one method. If you find your method and that method works for you, stick to it, go with it. You always try to mirror it after people or agencies that I know have been successful, right? I know that DOD has been successful in imprinting dogs, and their methods are good to get through. I know the same with Homeland Security. I know with your programs. I know they're good. I know they're solid. I know if I bought a dog from you that you told me was imprinted, I'm good. So that's really good. Now I'm gonna tag that book. I'm gonna put the Amazon link. It's on Amazon.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put the Amazon link, and I highly suggest if you're looking to imprint a dog or you just want to refresh on some things, looking at the importance of taking a dog from reward selection to documentation to imprinting to pushing past that you buy that book and you study that book. And as Paul said, you have QR codes in there that'll show you videos. I'm also going to tag Paul's Shalon K9 website. Paul just started offering, it was an internship, right?
I do mentoring, online and in-person mentoring, if people do, and workshops.
So yeah. If you get an opportunity to attend any of the workshops, I've been lucky to be taught by him myself through the years, and I work with him at K2. So I've been to a lot of his workshops. If you haven't had the buried odor workshop with him, or buried cedar, buried odor, buried target odor, definitely get out to one of those. You have any upcoming workshops? States? I know you do a lot.
Yeah, a lot overseas. I have got some search and rescue, buried odor, I think in April or March. But not a lot in the States, funny enough. A lot of it is, overseas work, yeah.
Search and rescue, too. I want to talk about that a little bit. That's a unique field. One, they're all volunteers, right? And they're taking their time, their money, their dog, their gas, their fuel. All these things to go out and provide a service for someone. And I'm not sure, we haven't talked since the tragic events that happened with the flooding, but I know a lot of guys locally that do search and rescue, I know they were involved in that, of going out and trying to find those bodies. So with search and rescue, how do you feel that what you've done in the past transitions over to search and rescue, and how do you transition that learning curve of taking, say, someone that was DOD or law enforcement or Homeland Security or even at K2 that has discipline, that has that mental fortitude that's been tested already. We know they can handle it, and then take that to the civilian population where you may have just a soccer mom with a dog that wants to be search and rescue? What's that look like?
Yeah, so it can be difficult. You know, I was involved in the search and rescue team over here for 5 years, and we did some in the British military. I did, actually in the 80s, I was training live fine dogs. Now, the live fine...
You know, like missing persons?
Yeah, but it was slightly different. So this was for the British military. There was a problem with Spetsnaz, the Russian special forces, were spying on American nuclear sites.
Oh.
So they wanted canines to be able to sweep the areas around nuclear sites and find people in hiding.
Okay.
So basically they do an off-leash, wide area search, quartering, and then if they find someone dug in, however it is, or stood in a woods or something, they give a response. So very similar to missing person. You know, that's the type of thing you were training for missing people. So that was in the 80s we started that program. But then coming over here, it was actually Orlando asked me to, I can't remember exactly what it was. I think maybe they had an issue with a particular dog or something. I don't know. But he said, would you come to our search and rescue team and help out? So I did. And I kept going back, helping out with some training. Eventually I joined the organization, and I stayed there, like I said, for about 5 years. And not just that, you know, but I do workshops with search and rescue all over the place. And predominantly, yes, in the US, they are volunteers. They are professional, some police, FEMA, etc. But predominantly it is volunteer. It's people, you know, they have a dog at home, they want to do something for whatever motivation it is, whether it's just to do something with a dog or maybe help the community or to feel part of the community, whatever it is. The motivation is there to go to these training events and actually volunteer. And the standards, you know, they vary as much as anything else, because you have organizations that are just one or two people and they train the dogs and they go out and help, all the way to massive, fully funded, you know, big organization with boats and rappel trained people and all sorts.
So you're talking
rope skills.
All levels of funding, all levels of training opportunities, all levels of equipment. Yeah, so
Yeah, I mean, massive. Even, you know, here in the local area, there's smaller organizations, which might be one or two people, all the way up to a huge one. I think it's based in Austin, but they have boats and people trained in rope rescue and all sorts of resources. And
natural disasters, hurricanes, flooding, things of that nature.
Yeah.
Persons, all. Okay.
Yeah, as well as supporting law enforcement in cadaver. And that's, you know, one of the big baselines of these types of work is law enforcement type support, whether it's live fine for missing people or to assist in cadaver detection.
It's cadaver, either suicide or murder or
anything. Yeah. And, you know, and there's limitations because in Texas, very lucky, we can own body parts. So we're good that way. But in other states, they're not even allowed to own body parts to train on. So, you know, like in the UK, they have to use pork or something, which has proven it's not as effective, obviously, as looking for live human parts. So in Texas, we are fortunate. We are allowed to use cadaver, pieces of human body, to train the dogs. Your limitations are if you bury it, you know, coyotes and hogs in this area just rip them up and run away with them. So you've got to try and come up with different ways to have your buried odor, which is part of the development of that buried odor workshop I developed, was because of some of the limitations in acclimatizing our dogs to the environment that contains the target. You know, to me, you can take a volunteer. We were all volunteers into this program at some point, whether I volunteered to join the army to actually become a dog trainer or, you know, whatever it is, we're all volunteers. I think I do hear criticism at times about, you know, we don't need volunteers in this semi-professional world. The only difference between a volunteer and a trained certified dog team is education. That's it. You could take, you know, a volunteer and put them through a process of education, and if they come out the other end and certify, they're the same as you know. But if you could take a volunteer, put them through the education, and they don't cut it, for whatever reason, they self-expel or whatever it is, realize it's not for them or it's not for their dog or whatever, then fine. But it's education is the difference between mum and pop someone wanting to do this and the end result. And that is what is needed, I think, in a lot of cases, is that educational process, that avenue for people that want to get into this to actually get to the end result.
Well, couldn't that, I was just thinking through it as you're talking, but couldn't that be something to where the state of Texas implements a standard to be a search and rescue dog in the state of Texas, right? Like some of the federal agencies have a national standard. That might be something that is.
Yeah, so actually I'm involved with NIST, OSAC. They are producing federal sponsored standards.
Okay.
They're not mandatory. We've just completed an explosive detection one. In fact, the results been published today of, we took the standard, actually applied it to 56 certified law enforcement teams and recorded the results of how they did on this national standard. But they have one for search and rescue. They have it for tracking, and different aspects of cadaver search. So there is this federally peer-reviewed standard which is out there, which could be used. But the problem is they're not required. And until you require a standard, then why should I make the effort? And particularly if it's a hard standard.
And to be honest, like, what's the difference, right? If Jim Johnson, who's been training this personal SAR dog for 2 years, can go out and find either a cadaver or a live find or missing people, and it's the same as, this law enforcement officer that's been through the certified courses finds it as well. Like, what's the difference? So I could see where that goes.
Yeah, but you also get the people that turn up that their dog couldn't find its feed bowl in the kitchen,
right,
and they're going out looking for. Yeah.
So back to ACE certification standard that says our dogs are, here's our capabilities, here's our limitations. Yeah, that's interesting, man. And I don't think search and rescue is new, but I think it is more. There's more looks at it now than there's ever been, especially with a lot of the natural disasters.
Yeah. And there needs to be, so the conservation community, recognizing some of the pitfalls that can happen when you start to use dogs in these new fields, have jumped onto that very early. And we formed Conservation Dog Alliance, which is a group, there was 12 of us founding members, which came together to try and bridge that gap between people that want to get into this and people that are doing it, and say, here's avenues for education. So now there is online courses, full courses for all the theoretical side. We're just developing the practical courses as well. So people can get into conservation with their dogs, because it's same as search and rescue. People see it. It's just great. They see people like me traveling to Asia and doing what I do. I want to do that as well with my dog. But how? And then we get problems. There was one where, I was talking to a program manager once. He was looking for endangered snakes. And I said to him, we can train dogs. I will never use a dog in my life. He said, someone came to me from a scent club, said they could train the dog. They imprinted on this rare snake, sent the dog into the field, and it ran back with a snake in its mouth dead. And this is the endangered snake, So all these photos with turtle detection dogs with a turtle in their mouth, and these sort of things are damaging to the community, but it's potentially in these two cases, I don't know, but it's because there was no education route to teach people the importance of passive response and how to do field surveys and how to data collect and all the theoretical side that has to go into this. So now there is a course, Canine Conservationists have a handler course. Again, I'm one of the instructors on that.
Where are those courses?
I think, it's online. So it's all the theory side. It's either on demand or it's live. You can submit videos, etc. But it's online based for the theory side of it. And then we develop them. I'm just back from Oregon. We did a few days of in-field of a retreat, actually training some of these things. But we're going to develop the practical side as well. So that means someone can learn the theory to a standard. They have to sit exams, etc. Then come on a training program and actually train with a dog to a standard, and then say, okay, you've gained all the basics now. You can start to advance forward into the field, rather than just, okay, Mrs. Jones, let's go and find something. So I think, it's education that is important. And again, that's when I started Sharon Canine. part of it is to try and give back and help people learn themselves. I can't do everything, but at least I post prolifically on Instagram. And I do get a lot of people contacting me, but try and explain, this is what we do and this is how we do it. And there's a reason behind everything.
It's evident, man. You got your hands on a little bit of everything. I'm really curious about the conservation of this canine, because that could be any range of endangered species or what would they call something that's overtaking
invasive
species.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, the range on that could be bear scat to snails, right? So, yeah, that's interesting, because I would wonder how a dog would transition from being predominantly utilized or contracted to find this, and then now we're going to go from snails to bear scat, right? I would think it's just conditioning of basically imprinting a new odor or how to find, but that passive response is very important. When they come back with a snail in their mouth, snake in their mouth, and turtle. That's really cool. Yeah, man, I'm following you. I watch everything you do, whether I tell you I don't. I've always appreciated you, man. You've always been very honest and upfront with me. Even when I didn't want to hear that answer, you give me the answer. But I appreciate your friendship. We've been friends over 20 years now. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And I always respect your training. I always talk highly of you. So if you guys don't go to Paul's website, and you don't get that book, and you don't get his Instagram, I'm going to link everything Paul does to the bottom of this channel. Please go subscribe to his own channels, and if you need an expert to walk you through anything detection-wise, I promise you he's the guy.
I appreciate it, Joe. All right.